Welcome in, everyone. RFK Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here to break down a bye week for DC United, not for the Washington Spirit. We'll get into all that great action that we had from the Spirit game and take a look ahead. We got some of your questions. You guys were great as always, providing us content. So we're ready to jump right into it. But before we do that, John, my friend, how was your weekend?
It's good. I just want to say first and foremost, we are now broadcasting live on every platform known to man. And I know that because my phone just gave me 6 different notifications of all the platforms in which we are. So I know for sure we're on at least 3 of them. So enjoy us wherever you're watching us. That's the important thing. How was my weekend? My weekend was pretty good. We played our last baseball game of the season. Now we're going to the playoffs. So that was fun. Got to see a nice Spirit game, and I was around and awake enough to be able to do the post game and ask some questions to Adrian Gonzalez. So I was doing my job. I was back on my job. It's been a little while, I feel like. So, I mean, that's good. Ted, how was your weekend?
Yeah, I feel like this was, I did watch the Spirit game. I think I
told him how you watched it too, Ted.
I did. Second half. We've been trying to. We have a. If you don't, no one knows where I live. Thankfully, I don't think I want everyone
lucky
knowing.
You, man. That's not the case for all of us.
I think I don't want people knowing exactly where I live in Lynchburg. But my apartment has a downstairs area and facing sort of an ugly concrete that people are dumping plants, and I think there's like a grill cover or something that's fallen down there as well. A little bit of a pit. We're not going to touch it, but anyway, there's empty space and then a massive wall. So I hung a projector screen, which I bought, I think, off Amazon for like 20 some bucks, and put some rope, tied it up, and then got a projector screen. And I tried it like in the first half. I was like, well, let's see if, maybe my projector is pretty good. Couldn't see anything. So I was like, all right, I'm going to just take a break. I'll come back and try it again in the second half. Tried again in the second half, and it worked. And so I got to watch a little bit of the game outside. It was kind of fun to do that in the summer. It's getting nice out there. I believe producer Brian called it projector season. So
I think that's right. I think that's a good name for it.
It is a good name for it. So it was fun. Nice Spirit victory, comfortable one. So, and then the rest of the weekend was kind of chill, which I think I'm kind of excited about. I think I needed sort of a nice, relaxing, chill weekend. I will be in Charlotte this upcoming weekend. Not going to the DC game, totally unrelated reasons. Definitely not.
Just love Charlotte.
Yeah, just love Charlotte, North Carolina. No, I'll be at the DC game. If you're going down there, if you're traveling down and you're a friend of the show, please say hi. I will be accompanied. My dad will be joining us, and also my uncle, who I haven't seen in a long time.
You know what, Ted?
We got a newbie
after the show. I'll send you some stickers so you actually have some to hand out there. Since probably don't. I'll make sure to do that.
Yeah, you gotta get him there quickly, man. You gotta get him there.
I'll put 2 stamps on it.
There you go. There you go. All right, let's jump into it. We had one game to talk about this week, which is this Washington Spirit getting a comfortable. Comfortable. I'll call it comfortable, and I'll get into a minute. I'll get into that into a minute. 1-0 victory over Utah Royals.
Hapless Utah Royals.
Yeah, hapless Utah Royals. John, we'll start with you, man. Your some thoughts from the game, some thoughts of the lineup. We'll let you go.
The lineup was, I think, obviously the lineup was something that people noticed because Ashley Hatch was playing, I guess, as the 10, new position for her. Really very square peg, ground hole situation for Ashley Hatch. We all know where she should be playing. Unfortunately for her, the person who was playing in her position was MLS or NWSL best 11 for last month and has 6 goals already. So tough cookies for her. They had Coach Adrian Gonzalez even made mention of the fact that they wanted to make sure she's in the game since she was back in her home state, which I thought was like, all right. But yeah, Kate Wiesner gets another start up in the left side of midfield, but also sort of tracking back as well in a hybrid position, which will be important here in a minute. But the lineup was, other than that, no real surprises. It seems like everyone's healthy pretty much, so that's good for the Spirit. No real surprises there. But the Utah Royals, man, it's not great there. They cannot score goals. They don't give up too many. Mm-hmm. You got to give them that. I think I said in my wrap up that give Amy Rodriguez some offensive weapons because it's not fair She has drilled this team into being pretty challenging to play against, pretty awful to play against, which is always the coaches all say that when they have a very not talented roster. They say, well, we're going to be very hard to play against. I think that's true. I think they're pretty good at that. They are, however, very, very dedicated to playing the ball out of the back, which as a team on like 3 I'm not sure what their total is. I think it might be 4 points. Stop doing that. Don't do that. Your fans, I mean, I guess it's good training, but your fans do not appreciate this. They don't appreciate the 50 turnovers in your own third just because you want to be dedicated to it. But that's what the lineups look like to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I think for most of the game, you look at the shots on target, 16-7 for the Spirit. You would look at that game and say I'd say about the first half of this game, we're seeing a trend with this Spirit team. I feel like we see the first half, they like really, if they don't give up the first goal, they get on the front foot, they go in, they score, they look dominant, they look in control. But then in the second half, you kind of see them sort of tail off a little bit. They aren't as I don't know, as on top of it, I guess you could say, or on top of the ball. So it's interesting. I'm not sure if that's intentional, if they're just kind of holding off. I think this was clearly a case where Utah is, again, an expansion team, I think this year, right? I'm correct in that regard.
Yes.
I will say the crowd, man, I talked about this in the game. I was like, man, that crowd, I understand it's hot, it's a mid-season game, but you would think for a team that's sort of returning back, you would think there would be, a little bit more of a crowd in there. So
8,486 paid attendance.
Yeah. So, maybe not, it's 20,000 seat stadium. I'm going to go ahead and guess.
Yeah.
Maybe
you got to do the old, like putting them all on the TV side. They got to stuff them in there.
But, something to watch for me, as, I want this team, I want all these NWSL teams to be successful. So, but again, you look at the domination in shots and on the Field of Vision Twitter account, which uses sort of Opta, I believe it was only point for the whole game. They actually got beat XG, or the Spirit did. Let's see, we got it here. 0.67 XG for the Spirit, 0.72 for Utah Royals. And that kind of parses out. I think the Spirit,
if not for the post and for Aubrey Bledsoe in the second half, they would have lost this game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's accurate. They were well nullified by the Utah Royals. So something to continue to work on. I think Utah would have been very happy with a 0-0 draw at home. They would have loved it. They would have done a dance.
But again, you have to look at, how the team lined up. They didn't play Corey Bethune, who again, I think came out in the second half. And
did.
Really couldn't get.
Corey picked up a small injury in her knee at the US camp, which when a player has had 3 ACLs in the same knee, take it easy when that happens. But yeah, I asked, so she came in the 46th minute. I asked Adrian if the Spirit had done a better job of converting chances in the first half, would you have rested her longer? Would you have kept her out the entire game? And he was basically like, I don't know. Who can say? Hard to say. I don't know that wasn't necessarily my plan. I think he probably would have liked to. We talked, I think, in the chat saying, wow, they're doing great this first half, and they haven't even put Croy on the field. They're just rolling a number 9 at the midfield, and they're doing okay. But I think that is certainly something to notice, that the Ule Sar looked a lot less effective this game, and I think it's because Croy didn't join until the second half. And I think they are 2 players that play together really well. Mm-hmm. And the crosses were not finding Sar. I think the Royals really focused on making sure she was denied the ball as much as possible. So not really a surprise there, but I think it's something to watch, that those 2 players seem to feed off each other really well. And when one of them's not there, you don't know what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, Trinity Rodman, I thought, still played extremely well, was very impactful in the game. Yep. I think she had a couple opportunities, one sort of inside the box that she should have, could have buried. And maybe this game is 2-0. I think you were talking in the chat. You're like, look, this game really is just get that second goal. And then, Utah really has nothing. And that's what we're seeing. Is this is a team, like, there's no world beaters out there for Utah that are going to come out and win this. And that's why I think the Spirit walked away with a victory, and Utah Royals didn't. They got a moment of brilliance, just a absolutely fantastic goal from Wiesner. Just picks it up, looks up, it picks up sort of in the box, kind of a little bit of a broken play, but then just manages just to hit a really well taken shot for the goal.
The spinner, the Michael Jordan fadeaway spin shot. She, I think that was. Have you seen what the XG was on that shot?
I have not. I've not been able.
Let's see. Is that even available on FootMob for NWSL?
They do not. They do not have it. I can tell you. I can tell you. I can tell you. It is one of the I think the green dot here on the Opta from it is one of the smaller dots out there.
Believable.
So, yeah.
Believable. That was a low percentage shot. Glad she found it. And also, really, they did a good job of not allowing a lot of close-in opportunities. There were a couple. Brittany Ratcliffe, by herself, had probably 2 or 3 things that should have been goals. Both 2 of them shots, one of them I would say a selfish play in which she could have just squared Sarr, and Sarr could have walked the ball into the net. It's such a challenge when you have a player that wants to very badly start and make an impression. This is what Jackson Hopkins used to do when he played forward for DC United. It's what Christian Fletcher still does. It's like, I've got to score 9 goals so that I can start next game. The coach will not like an assist. The coach would love an assist. The coach would think that's great. You should really think about trying to do that. So I think, I didn't listen to her post-game press conference. I'm not sure if she was kind of regretful about that. Maybe she wasn't. But the Royals took some opportunities, and if not, again, for a goal line situation by Bledsoe, the post on the left-hand side in the first half, they could have easily walked out of Sandy being like, how do we lose this team? How did this happen? So yeah, it's tough. There aren't a whole bunch of flashpoint moments to really focus on really in the game. I think your comments about Brittany Ratcliffe, I thought when she came in, though, I did see the energy levels sort of pick up in the spirit. And she was incredibly active, got in good spots. She got that, again, that opportunity you said, maybe where she squares the ball, but still did an excellent job, I think, at making that run, getting into that good spot. And she very nearly scores it. She's good. She's good. Yeah. And she's dangerous. She's scored 3 goals, all bangers whenever she comes in as a sub. But I think that,
yeah, and that's smart. That's what's so impressive about this team right now is this is not a complete picture yet. And yet this team is sitting 3rd in the NWSL standings. They look like they can go out and play against anybody at this point. I think I saw another stat. They're the 3rd team in NWSL history to have 9 wins out of their first 12 games or something like that. I think I saw that correctly. So
it's their 4th straight win, 2nd clean sheet of the season. As you said, behind Kansas City, current in Orlando. I would be concerned about playing Kansas City right now. I don't know if you watch their highlights. Yeah. They're looking tough. I think, the Spirit are doing this on the back. Obviously, this is only a 2nd clean sheet of the season. They're doing this on the back of their offense. They're doing all right, we're gonna outscore them. Whatever it is, we'll take care of that. They're gonna have to button that up, I think, in the second half of the season. They're gonna make some moves. I think we've already heard potential signings in the back line. This team will need to figure out ways to tighten up the back a little bit, take a road draw occasionally when it gets tougher. But they have no draws this season. That's a peculiar, peculiar stat so far. But this is we've said it now a couple weeks in a row. This team is better than we thought they would be, earlier than we thought they'd be. All of the moves that they've made so far have panned out for the most part. This team is still a work in progress. They keep talking about all the players. We know some that are coming. Our actual coach will actually come here. The one that they would have paid $3 million to release early from his contract, and a coach who just won the Champions League. So it's kind of wild that we're here right now. Adrian Gonzalez deserves a lot of credit for how far he's taken this team already on his own. And we're very excited to see where they go the rest of the way.
Yeah. And it's like I said, and I was looking at the schedule. I was like, well, when do we play KC Girl? We don't play them until August. So August 25th.
Wonderful.
So wonderful.
Well, that would be after we play Arsenal, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah. Good things going on for the Spirit. By the way, Trinity's post-game Instagram live.
Yes.
With Sarr and Boutel eating In-N-Out. I saw highlights of it, I guess. I did not see the live Instagram.
It was a very short one, but they went to In-N-Out after the game. They're eating burgers and fries. Boutel eats the burger and she makes like a rapturous face, like she's like the best hamburger she's ever had. In-N-Out's good, but I think it's also these are soccer players that don't eat a lot of hamburgers too. I think that's not really like their typical after game meal. But her point, so she said, people are saying in the chat that the fries are trash, and they are trash. But if you eat them animal style, they're great. They're fine. But they're it's the weak point. It's the Achilles heel of the In-N-Out experience is the fries. It's just awful. Doesn't need to be. Around the league, I want to do a quick recap. Something we're going to start doing a little bit more. Oh, you have more?
No. I was saying let's do that. Let's talk about probably the funniest moment. I want Matthias Click to please give a score on this, please. Come on, buddy.
So Portland wins 1-0 against North Carolina Courage, a game I thought that both teams would score. 2 red cards against. They're both against Portland, right?
I think so. I thought it was just one for Sophia Smith, but
Sophia Smith is the talking point here because she's on the bench. The ball rolls over to the Thorns bench and she hides it to kill some time, which I think is hilarious. And then that earned her a second yellow and a red card and a suspension for next week. Wishing that the Thorns were playing the Spirit next week, but unfortunately, we're not that lucky. But that's a big. I think Portland. I think we talked about them at the beginning of the season. They were like second to last for longer than you'd think, but of course, they have turned the ship around. They always do. They are inevitable.
They are in fourth right now.
Inevitable.
5 points behind the Spirit at this point. Courage had the other red card, Ryan Williams, in the 78th minute. But yeah, just a hilarious moment where she like tries to like hide the ball and like pretend, oh, I just found it. And she does it right in the line. She doesn't even like do it very like subtly or like, really can't really sell it. And like, I think literally there's a Courage player that literally points it out. I would also add there's, a far side official, a fourth official who could see that probably. So a silly yellow card to get. She kind of like looks up, like tries to like argue it, like it just went behind the bench, and she kind of knows that she can't get away with it. So
the 5-2 win for Kansas City over Seattle. This game is on CBS. I think I said in the notes here that Kansas City scares me.
August problem, buddy. They're an August problem. Just late August. That's
true. But
we're gonna have Santos. We're gonna have defensive help. We're gonna be fine, buddy.
They have speed. They score off set pieces. They score scruffy goals where the ball's bouncing around inside the 6. They're tough. They're a tough beat.
I want to talk a little bit because Vlatko's their coach.
He is.
This to me undersells. This undersells. We always look at coaches, and I feel like we never talk about how coaching at an international level. And I know that the U.S. women's team's a little different, but I think it's shifted. I think it's shifted dramatically over the years when Vlatko was coach. Is that you really can't build much with a national team, and I think that's where Vlatko struggled. And also he had a team whose cycle was kind of ending, and he comes immediately to the club side. He gets week in, week out. He can work with players. You can build those relationships. You can build everything, and then suddenly he looks like the coach of the year, basically.
The only strike against him is he told Levanta not to celebrate too much when she scores goals. So it was a bit of if you're a Nationals fan, very Davey Martinez, just act like you've been there before, old man stuff. We don't like that. Other notes in this game: Jordan Heidema scored 2 great goals. That's a player who I think wishes she was not playing other than she's still dating Julio Rodriguez, but other than that, I think she probably, now that she's healthy, wishing she was playing somewhere else. That team is pretty dire. But yeah, they scored. Chawinga is a really tricky winger. She scored a great goal. To your point, it's an August problem, but it's a problem. Bay FC get the 2-1 win against the Red Stars at Wrigley, so that's cool. They set the regular season attendance record at 35,038, which is awesome. Good for them. They got a 90th minute goal, to a consolation goal. But yeah, Bay FC does not have a lot of wins this season. I think that might be their 3rd win. Maybe not. Producer Brian will have to reference me in the chat, but I think that's right. Other 2 quick games this weekend. 2-1 Gotham over Angel City. That was a Friday night game. I didn't get to watch the highlights on that one. And then 2-0 Louisville over Houston. Houston continues to struggle. They trade away what would be basically their designated player because she wanted out 2 months after signing a new contract. But things go from bad to worse in Houston. Poor Paige Nielsen gets pushed out of Angel City and falls into that mess with the Dash. But that's what it is.
Yeah, San Diego Wave did not play last week, and they are now our upcoming opponent. They're currently sitting ninth in the league. They lost to Bay FC. They actually struggling as Bay FC. Their last game was a 2-1 loss to Bay FC. So I think they're a team that is playing well, and despite getting Maria Sanchez all the way from the Houston Dynamo, maybe it's been a little bit slow going getting her going. But she's a very, very, very dangerous player for anyone who has her on her side. So
we'll do a bit more of a preview later on in the week with the San Diego game, but that's the other thing that's happening. So other big news that dropped today: the Spirit are hosting a bunch of a bunch of English teams coming this weekend, or coming in August. The Spirit will play Arsenal. That'll be an interesting game, and then the following week there will be the part of a doubleheader, which I think will be after that KC game. Chelsea will play Arsenal at Audi, so that's going to be a 2:00 start, and then I think or a 1:00 start and a 4:00 start on that doubleheader day. So I'm going to be living in the press box for 8 hours on August 18th, I think it is. But very exciting. I know that there's a lot of women's fans of the women's game. I think Chelsea's a pretty big club internationally. I know that Andre from Hey Spirits is going to be very excited. I think it's great. Hopefully I didn't look at the rest of their schedule. Hopefully they're off that week. They better be. And this is
it's part of I think the Arsenal Chelsea game is part of a Spirit doubleheader where they're going to play a league match.
No, I'm talking about the Arsenal Spirit game, the previous.
Yeah.
August 18th is when they play Arsenal, and I'm hoping that they don't have any games very close to it on either sides.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure they don't.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't. So it would be silly if they did, and hopefully no one catches us and says, "Nope, you're wrong. They do have a game on Wednesday."
It's a chance to get the young players in.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's exciting news for folks. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is there was a cool article in Forbes from a couple days ago about the Spirit working with players to get their business acumen honed up, so they have jobs when they get out of soccer. I'll put the chat in I'll put the link in the show notes, but basically I talked about Aubrey Kingsbury getting to, she got an MBA last year and also wanted to become a baker and did that. And she got to fans got to come and go see what she was making at a bakery. And then Gabby Vincent talked about her move from being a player to being on the broadcast team for ESPN for the Spirit. So pretty cool article. That's that.
Cool. We've got some
Spirit questions.
Spirit questions. I'll read the first one. You can get the second one. This is from Lotus on our Discord. To me, it seemed like Hatch played as the 10 against Utah for the first half. Do you agree? If so, do you think? What do you think of the experiment? Is Hatch the best alternative to Bethune until Santos arrives? Might central midfield suit Hatch more than left midfield winger or no? I think she seemed. I will say in this game, playing as the 10, she seemed more involved. The team was still able to generate chances. I can't recall anything directly she did to create a chance the way Bethune does. I think it was just, short numbers, trying to, get some attacking talent out there. I'm not sure it's something you'll see permanently. So
you will not see that permanently. I feel comfortable saying that. Yeah. I think to your point, she seems like a fish out of water on the left wing. And it could be worse, right? So I think her stats don't look very good. She was 50% on passing, 1 touch in the opposition's box, no accurate crosses, 1 out of 3 on ground duels. Yeah, statistically pretty inert. Not a position you're going to likely see her more often. And who else would be a better option in that position? I think that's a good question. I think I could actually see Trinity in the 10 and Ratcliffe playing in Robin's position on the right side. I think that would be fine. Obviously, we've gotten used to seeing Robin in the wing, but that does not necessarily say that she can't play centrally if the need arises.
Yeah,
So
that's a good call out. I wouldn't be mind maybe Brittany Radcliffe. I feel like she can be a little bit more of a passer, a little bit more of a creator, and also maybe be more of a certainly has a goal scoring talent. But I don't know. I saw what I've seen from her. She can certainly connect the ball as well.
also remember we have this player named Chloe Ricketts on the team that we might want to send out there once in a while.
Good article. I don't know if you read it. I think it was. I want to say I think it was in the Post talking about the sort of young youth movement that's been going on about how Chloe Ricketts when she has to go basically to a different dressing room entirely from her teammates. She's basically I think living with her sister who kind of serves as her chauffeur. But sort of the challenges of sort of allowing younger players in girls soccer and really a lot of the need to sort of protect them. And we've seen a lot of this league change. It's certainly slowed down a little bit, but certainly the environment was not there. And now they have a mechanism. And I think we're going to start to see like women's soccer. This is sort of the first trend we're going to start to see where, players are going to start, bypassing college, going directly pros. And that's going to have an impact on the women's game right now in the college ranks as well.
I think after Lacey Santos gets here, they should send her on loan to Richmond or something. She's got to get minutes. Seriously, no, honestly.
Chloe Ricketts?
Yeah, she's way. I mean, yeah, not Lacey Santos, but she's obviously. I think she's like way. She would be above that league probably in her skill set, but she's got to play. She's. This is not good for her development the way that they're currently set up, and they're only adding depth in that position. So I think seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, you talk about that too. I mean, the lack of sort of the biggest problem with Richmond, with the Richmond Ivy, is that they are a pre-professional like college. So they're college kids that are, and in cases I think there's some like some of like the academy players as well. There are players that are out of college, and it's sort of there is no real second division as far as a pre-professional league. I don't know. Maybe you loan her to in August to the W Super League. Maybe you figure. I know you're in direct competition with them, but you have a relationship with DC. It would allow her to to get some minutes. I think that's a fair call out. Corey Bethune's emergence maybe has, pushed her a little bit more to the side. And I think it's going to be a developing story, the lack of sort of a real true professional second division where you can, have players that can grow. And I think maybe people thought the Super League would fit nicely into that, but, they've decided to go
to go first division. It looks like NWSL has to think about a reserve league if this is what it's going to be. I think they're particularly if, you are going to continue to allow these younger players opportunity to sign if they want to. I think, and with the depth of the draft, the skill that comes out of the draft, I think an old style MLS reserve league is probably the way to go about it. Maybe they do have a lot of midweek scrimmages that we don't hear about that only come out like when you talk to a player and they're like, yeah, we played today. But that I think probably you could do you could raise it up a little bit from there. A tier of a higher competition.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. It's something certainly to talk about. You want to read the next question from?
The window just disappeared, so you read it, please.
Okay, so nothing emeritus.
Nothing emeritus. This
emeritus.
Is,
James, formerly president of the Screaming Eagle, says, "Do you agree the Spirit's rest defense is the culprit? The inability to shut the other team down late in the match. They seem to lose shape late in matches. I suspect this will improve as the side has longer with the manager to work on this. I think it's going to come down to players and depth. I think getting some competition at defense. Maybe some of that, a bit of what he's talking about, but I think really look at this team. They have like two center backs. It's Butel and Mikione. Mikione, she's been great, but she's a converted center back. I think Butel's been maybe it's a testament to like how good of a player Mikione's is. Like Butel looks like the weakest of the two defenders of the two center backs.
I think she has improved as the season's gone along. It's been up and down, but to your point, she'd be a great third center back.
Mm-hmm.
Terry Mikione there's still moments. There was an opportunity where she carried the ball out of the back line all the way up the field and took a shot when it was like very clearly there were better options, and she's like, no, I have a nose for goal. I still feel this in my bones. This is still my job. So yeah, I think certainly, shutting down teams late in matches is certainly part of this. We have seen sometimes where they've gone up early and tried to shut up shop and did okay at it, but still conceded. I think depth is important. I don't think it's so much managerial. I don't think that they're not well practiced. I don't think that they're not receiving the correct sort of guidance. I think it's just a matter of that is not their strength, and they have other priorities right now, which is becoming a fluid, dynamic attacking side and having positional versatility all throughout. I think that's their focus. But clearly, they need to do the other thing too, because the teams above them can do both.
It's interesting. It's interesting that, usually we see teams, look at Spirit. Spirit has struggled the past couple of years. They've been a team that has not played well. And so usually what we've seen teams do, we'll talk a little bit about what I think what Charlotte has done as sort of a team trying to improve, is that they say, okay, we're going to be difficult. We're just going to be hard to break down. And, we're going to get goals where they come, sort of what Utah is trying to do out there, and not successfully. We see teams sort of set up a strong defensive and then, build up from there. And what we've seen, really, I think what, I'm assuming Uraldez has some role in it. What we've seen from the coaching staff, they said, we have all these attacking talent. Like, let's go get this attack going. Let's score a bunch of goals. Let's bring some energy back into the team. Let's make them fun to watch. And then, we'll figure out the defensive side later. And basically it's worked. So it's been interesting. I think it'll get better. Like, we have to take, I think if there was nobody in this, nobody in preseason had this team sitting where they're sitting right now. 9 wins, 3 losses. Yeah, they maybe could have, get a couple draws in there and you're sitting top of the table basically. But where this team is right now is far above where everybody else, I think had them. They, particularly when they traded away who they traded away, they've nailed the draft. I mean, there's no doubt about it with who they've gotten. They've gotten 2 basic locked in starters, one of which replaced one who left, and then another one who basically pushed out one who had a very good season. And, now is on the full national team roster, and how. So, I mean, you can't deny that this has been sort of ahead of schedule. And I'm excited for what the future holds. So
agree.
All right. Shift gears a little bit. We do have a little bit of DC to talk about. We got some off the field news. We've got some different things to talk about. Bye week for DC players. Obviously, DC United had several players missing. John, you had the players spread out for vacation. You neglected to mention we did have some international call-ups for we had Matty Patola getting an assist in, I think, a game. I think he assisted Timo Pukki on a goal, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong about that, but had an assist. Aaron Herrera got called up for Guatemala, something to watch coming up next week. Has planters.
Plantar fasciitis. That's horrible. I didn't know that was the diagnosis. Hate that.
Yeah. So he apparently pulled out of the Guatemala game. Guatemala didn't really need it. I'm holding up hope that it was precautionary, because there are 2 matches they had in World Cup qualifying. By the way, just in case you're curious, 6-0 win against Dominica. I think that was the only match. And then, of course, a 3-0 win over the British Virgin Islands. So they didn't really need Aaron Herrera out there. Their opponents were not great. So I hope it was just the pain's too much. We don't want to harm your international career. We need you for, once we start getting further in this World Cup qualifying, we don't need you to we should be able to beat these 2 teams we got coming up. And they did. So I'm hopeful, maybe it was just, a week's rest. Hopefully he's back, but something to watch as this team. Definitely watch that injury report and see what it is. And with, the potential injury to Steve Birnbaum coming up, who knows what that's going to look like. So no news is good news, maybe.
I don't think so. On Steve or on
Herrera? That's true. Herrera on Herrera. I think I'm positive he'll be good to go. Maybe there's a chance he doesn't make it. Birnbaum, I would say, yeah, we haven't gotten the announcement yet, but I bet that's coming. I think in the next couple of weeks, we're going to get out for hope. I'm hopeful, no more than a month, basically, but we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Results around the league. Sort of the results here kind of, I think, are indicative. I didn't watch any MLS today because a bunch of players are gone. And it shows in that, the Red Bulls that have been basically lighting up the rest of the league lost to the last place New England Revolution.
Who lost money on that one? This guy.
You should have known, man. Come on, that the team was there internationally. They didn't have Emil Forsberg out there.
Explains why the odds weren't that great.
Flat Earther John Tolkien's out there with the Olympics. So SKC 2-1. SKC 2-1 over Seattle.
Would not have picked that. Did not pick that one right either.
Yeah, Dallas 1-1 over Minnesota United FC. They have now let go of their coach. And then St. Louis 0-0 with Portland. So I don't know if there was too much. I really did not watch MLS this week. I maybe took a little bit of a self-induced break. New England, maybe is the one little bit of surprising result. New England are not a good team right now. They are circling the drain. I am actually surprised with some of the firings we've seen that Caleb Porter is not one of them. Like, he was brought in to sort of get this team back on the right path. Like, it was like, yeah, we don't care about, next year. We need this year to be good. And it's just been horrid.
Bruce Arena watches from afar, looks at New England and laughs. Other bit of MLS news, MLS Next Pro. We've talked about it a million billion times. There's not much news here. But MLS Next Pro and the USLW team, the DC Power, they're going to go to Baltimore. The Power being the surprising one, A, because they're called the DC Power, and B, because they need a place to play, and it looks like it's going to be whatever the stadium is in Baltimore. It helps DC United with the selling it to the community that there will be multiple professional teams playing there. So that basically the article that I talk about here is just that they hired a firm to find more potential options. This is years away. I personally
hope it's not. I really think these are the Next Pro. Like, come on.
So here's the thing. Just start the team.
Yeah.
Play it wherever. Who cares that no one can come to it? It'll be a slight money loser for 2 years. But you are realizing that you have no depth. When something goes wrong, there's just nothing you can do. You just can't do anything. And that seems to be pretty ridiculous. We're the only team that has this situation. It's you got to figure something out in the near term.
DC's being fined for the lack of a Next Pro team, by the way.
Good.
I won't name the source. I haven't told him whether I could say this or not, but he was somebody who used to work in an MLS front office who basically told me straight up. He was like, yeah, they're being fined, for not having an MLS Next Pro team. Yeah, this needs to happen. Play them in Loudoun. I don't know. Play them at Audi Field. I don't know. Find some facility you can play them at. I am thinking that there has to be like some college stadium in Baltimore that could serve, some small college in Baltimore that could serve as a acceptable like MLS Next Pro field, that they could at least get this thing off the ground, get it moving. I know there's they are in technically a D3 Pro league, so they have certain, restrictions as far as the stadium is, but you're telling me there isn't like a, city stadium out there in Baltimore that could serve for this.
They could play in City Stadium. How about that? We'll just have them play down in Richmond. Who cares? Just play somewhere.
No, don't do that, dude. No one would go to that. No, don't do that.
They don't have to. I don't care. They could play in front of nobody. This just has to exist.
Yeah.
This has to be anyway. So look for that in 2029 or whatever it is where you get a stadium.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be soon. I think
it will not be.
So what's your prediction?
I think 5 years until they have a stadium that they can play in Baltimore, if it's going to be in Baltimore.
I'm going to say 2026, 2 years.
All right.
I think they're closer along. I think the cost to get this up off the ground is maybe not as much. I don't know. They keep talking like they're going to have something next year. I believe we've heard that they're hopeful they're going to have something next year. So
I think they used up all their fairy dust on getting things built quickly on a few other things. So I'm not every article I've read talks about the community input. They're like, why would we want this? What would the benefit to this be? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. No one's talked to us about this. So it's sort of it's sort of the DC story again, where the ANCs were like, no, thank you, and they built it anyway. Except for in this case, I don't think that Baltimore is not seeing dollar signs in their eyes with this second division, third division situation that they've got going on. So, well, I still say 5 years. We'll see. Mark this down in the RFK Refugees bet log for all of you. I'm sure Brendan Cartwright, you need to keep track of this. If anyone in the universe would keep track of a statistical thing, it's you. So put this in the bet tracker. Only other bit of news. We talked about the two players, or one player that played internationally and one that came home early. Mattia Cambone also got in a 70 minutes start for the U.S. under-19s and a 1-0 win over Argentina. So good for him. That's cool. Certainly think he's going to be back in DC here. I think he's with the Steve Birnbaum news. Or lack of news, potential Steve Birnbaum news. I think we're going to see Mattia here for at least another month or two.
Yeah. Yep. And maybe for the rest of the year at that point. I don't know. I think it's hard for him to return. All right, let's get to some listener questions. Brendan Cartwright. I thought he was like asking a question to like, give me like your list of like top 10 forwards. So I started this list and then I realized he was like, without looking, can you name the top 10 forwards in games played DC history? I absolutely cannot, but you know what? I'm going to try. So here's my list. Jaime Moreno, number 1. I think that goes without saying. I'll be shocked if it's anybody else. Luciano Emilio, Roy Lassiter. I don't think he was here that long, or at least he was here for like a couple years. So, but I think he still maybe gets it. Leonard Bahoy is my next one because I feel like he was just here for so long. Yeah, he was just here too long. Diaz Arce, next one. Aleko Eskandarian. Then I'm going. I don't know if like Benteke and Rooney would be. I don't know if they would be flipped, but I think Benteke's been here. He's been here at least 2 years. I think he would be. He might even be longer. He might even be longer than Eskandarian if I'm being honest. And then I got Ola Kamara, and I just threw out Cudi Piedro because I have no idea on number 10. So, Brendan, I look forward to your response. Maybe we'll read it on the Friday show. So subscribe.
Yeah. Would Quaranta be considered a midfielder or a forward?
That's the thing. Like I was like, well, Di Rosario, like, is he a forward? Is he a midfielder? I don't know. So
if Dayro's on there, if Dayro qualifies as a forward, he's probably above Benteke and below Eskandarian, probably in that 6-7 range. And if Quaranta counts, I think he's probably above Eski and around Diaz Arce and Pahoy. If you count the 2 stints.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking too, like, where does like, I don't know, Histro Stoichkov, I didn't even put him on the list. He definitely would be a forward. And then I'm even thinking like Abdul Thompson Conte. I feel like he was there like for a long time in like the
Did he
like,
start though? Was he a
maybe
normal starter?
Maybe not. That was when I was like 8 or 9 years old. So it's sometimes memories.
You get a pass on that. All
right, I just thought his name was cool. I liked his name.
It is a cool name. I need 3 names. Bear Witness says, what's a successful season look like at this point? We've talked about this a couple times. Make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And develop and have young players seemingly that they're doing better than they were the year before.
In my mind, I think for me, the season is already a success. I just wanted to see this team. I could say confidently, okay, we're heading in the right direction. Like we feel like we're building something. We feel like something's there. I'm satisfied so far with what I'm seeing. Obviously now, I look back and how I saw at the beginning of the year and what I felt about how this team was going to look and how they look now. I went now you're like, okay, let's see some more. Let's what we can make the playoffs. We're sitting right there in the mix of it, despite this terrible run of form we had. And I'm really hopeful the 2 weeks off are going to see the team we saw sort of closer to the beginning of the year come back. But I think playoffs is good. I think maybe making it out of the group in the League's Cup. Maybe winning a knockout game in the League's Cup would also be something to look at.
I'm smiling because I just checked into our Instagram feed, and any of you folks who happen to have watched that, we're going to figure out what the actual thing is. It's basically just a third of our faces side by side, and that's it. So you can listen to it. You can certainly listen. We'll figure something out. This is we got a new it's a new capability of the software we use that can stream everywhere. I'm curious about LinkedIn too. I got to check that out later. But that's so that the. I think we kind of agree there on success. I think I talked to somebody else about this today who's not a DC United fan. It's a Liverpool fan. was talking about, I need to give MLS another chance. I'm like, you do. And then he was saying, well, what team should I see? Should I go see the Spirit or DC United? I was like, you should see the Spirit.
Yeah.
I think you should definitely see the Spirit. The thing I am concerned about judging this year as a success is, what if Christian Benteke decides he doesn't want to come back next year? Do you feel that this club is in a good spot going forward? Obviously, the would have to replace him, but do you feel like this team has diversified its tactics enough and developed enough sort of other things in this lineup where you feel okay? And it's going to be tough to say that that's true looking at the goal scoring distribution, but that's a thought I was thinking of, is like, this team, it's tough to be so dependent on one player who's on the other side of 30, who is on an expiring contract. Obviously, the option can be picked up, but like, for a team that's not really trying to win it all this year, throwing all your eggs in an expiring assets basket does not speak well for the future generally. That's a thought I was having. I'm not sure if it's true or not.
It's a fair shout out. I mean, the only thing I will say is that how quickly, we've seen Troy been able to sort of get sort of everybody on board. Seems like a player's coach. He demands a lot with his style of play, but also does enough, I think, to keep people engaged and inspired to go out there and do that. So I think that of a whole keeps me positive that, if Benteke leaves, if Click leaves, it's 2 open DP slots. We've seen Ali Mackay come in and make, for the most part, some pretty good signings. We'll see his international realm is, Matty Patola. I'll give him a pass on Pirani right now, because that guy was just kind of there, and it was just like, we don't have anyone else at this point, and we need bodies. Let's give it a flyer. Why not? And then we'll see what David Schnegg brings when he comes in. So that, I think, is going to be maybe the real test, is what does this window look like? I think this is going to be a crucial window. If he brings in the talent, if Matty Patola starts to turn it around, I will say I think I've seen more from Matty this year to think, there's a base to build on. It's been a little bit of a rough start. It's had some ups and downs, but I think there's still a good player in there. It just has to, find it, essentially. So
tied into our next question by Purdy Fish, what young players for DC United do you think have the most potential? You probably say Matty Patola, yes?
I would say that. I still think, I don't know if we call them. I mean, who are we calling young? Are we calling, 22?
Still young.
Yeah, but 22, I'm going to say, MLS does sort of under 22. I'm going to keep this under 22. So I think Matty Patola is in there. I think he certainly has a lot of potential. He was brought in here for a reason. I'm going to say, honestly, Matej Akabone, I think, has the most potential. And I think he has the most potential because I think he has the biggest opportunity to get looks and get minutes based on where he plays right now, because he plays in defense. You look at the attack, Christian Fletcher had a moment here where he really could have taken off. And he hasn't. And,
Nope.
He basically is, basically at the level he was, last season. Haven't seen much that says this guy should be starting. Certainly, give him minutes because you need him. You need to. But I look at this and, where he plays in his position, sort of that attacking winger. That's where you look for like a TAM player. That's where you look for like a designated player to come in and maybe make a difference. Defensively, MLS teams are still always looking for value in that defensive slot. So, that's Matej Akambode is my shout out.
That is the answer. Good
Yes.
answer. I don't have a better one than that. Do we realistically think that Benteke would stay with the team if given the chance?
Yeah.
I think he probably would.
Mm-hmm.
He's enjoying his soccer. He's scoring lots of goals. That's fun. Everybody likes to score goals. I think he certainly would.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna come down to, everybody keeps talking about, and both with Click and Benteke, I think they would both stay here, be more than willing to stay here another year. I think the crux of it would be they would need to be DPs. They need to be an option contract. You're not going to get these guys on lower salaries. We don't live in LA. We don't have the LA discount or the New York discount. We live in DC. And so we've got to pay for those guys. So I think a lot of people are saying, if you can give Click like the same amount of level, what I don't want with Click, and I love Click and I think he's great, I would much rather take another year of him as a designated player than say try to get him down to a TAM level and then pay him 2 years. Maybe you give him more time with with a lower contract. I think that is then running the risk of, okay, then he's going to be 35, 36. Time comes for us all. I would say if you are not planning to bring him back as a deep lead just for that one last option year, then I say yes. Then I think you go find somebody else. So,
agree.
All right, let's talk. Those are all the questions. I think Pretty Fish had another one, but I'm a 2-question max kind of guy. So, and his question we can talk about down the road. So
you got to self-edit. You've got to pick your best 2, or otherwise we'll just pick the top 2 we read. So I think we're gonna get into the preview a little bit more. Ted will have a piece up later this week previewing the game. Ted will also be there, so look for that. That'll be exciting. But the next game we've got in front of us is again Charlotte this weekend away. Charlotte is, I would say, doing all right. The 1-2 lost 2, 1-2 drawn 2, and lost 1 in the last 5. 5th in the East. They have an even goal differential, which is wild, and they have scored and only allowed 18 goals all season. DC United has let in 31, just as a comparison, just as a little taste on how we are getting our points and they're getting their points. They've scored 14 out of their 18 goals in open play, so don't need to be worried off corners or set pieces. Not really their thing. Just a quick roundup of where the offense stacks up. You kind of can figure it out based on the 18 goals, but 24th in MLS in goals per match, 4th in goals conceded in MLS, 26th in possession, only holding the ball 46%. So, defensively, very, very stout. I think they have 7 clean sheets. I don't think I have it in here. But this is not a both teams to score type of game. If you're looking for the better's edge, I don't think I'd go with that.
Yeah. I mean, this is, we talked about, they've been a team similar to DC that have felt like they had their expansion year and they've been a little bit lost. Similar, I think, kind of in some ways to Cincinnati, though maybe not nearly as bad because they've been able to sort of throw money and bring in some, bigger name talent. But they've been a team that is, bought bad. They just jettisoned several, like their top goal scorer. I think it's Radarski, who is their designated player. They jettisoned him. They brought in Dean Smith. I don't know if David Tepper saw Dean Smith and said, hey, that was a name of a basketball coach from North Carolina. Yes, let's sign him. I don't think that. But anyway, Dean Smith has come in and basically, came in and said, the guys we have aren't good enough. So he was like, bye, here, go off to loan, go do this. And he's basically relied upon, you talked about the El Ababa is with Celtic, like you said. He's the leading goal scorer right now, but he only had 1 goal until the last game, which was 2 weeks ago against Atlanta, where he got 2 goals. So he's maybe starting to find his form. They're kind of sort of a team that's just kind of like, we're going to be hard to break down. We're going to be difficult. We're going to make it difficult for you defensively. We're not going to give up a goal. And then maybe we'll find a way to nick a goal or 2. They are relying, talk about taking advantage of your next pro team. They signed Ajaman, the big forward they think they got out of the super draft. Reminds me a little bit, big, tall player, has a little bit more of an acumen on the ball than like a Benteke. He is, I think, like in the upper percentiles on like dribbles and just beating players on the dribble and, completing runs and things like that. So a player to contend with. He is not, I'm not sure if he's really utilizing the maximum of his physical strength, like sort of Benteke is. And, Benteke is just an ability to sort of time that. But something to watch. I think this is going to be sort of a battle of 2 big men. I will say against Atlanta for the first half of that game had the much better play. They were pressured. They were able to get the ball in. Charlotte looks a little bit weak when overloads were done. So I think you want to try to get Stroud and Herrera cooking. You get them linking up, and you find Benteke in the box. You'll have a good time. So I think this is a team that is, like you said, being tough to beat against, taking advantage of that. I think I'd be curious to see, can they keep that momentum going after their 3-2 victory against Atlanta? Or when you're up against a team that knows how to play, that isn't struggling like Atlanta is, can you? And, also, I will say in that game, they got a fortunate own goal from Mr. Derek Williams, which also Pro came back and was like, yeah, you guys shouldn't have called that a goal. So it baffles the mind why MLS does not have goal line technology. So I think it's going to be an interesting match. I think it's going to be it's probably going to be a tough rubber match. I think if DC can find the space, if they can overload that side, that either that right or that left side. And I think it's going to be a question too. I think the injury report for DC is going to be the one to watch. If Herrera's out, if Birnbaum's out, if there's any other sort of injuries out, then it becomes a little bit. Benteke as well, who also picked up an injury. They said they weren't worried about it, but we'll see.
Right. That's what you would say, even if you were worried about it. I think, the power of coaching here, what other team in MLS could be like, we don't need any of our DPs. We're just going to go without them for the entire season if we have to, because they're not good enough. So goodbye, and still be fifth in the table.
Yeah.
And still be so hard to score against. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of, it sort of goes against the idea like that, international coaches can't settle quickly or coaching doesn't matter so much. Clearly there's something to that here. He's doing something.
Yeah. They don't wow you. And I think maybe, bringing him in, it was a big coup when they brought him in. I don't think anyone was really expecting to hire a coach like that. And I think he wants to do what he wants to do, and they're being rewarded for it right now. So we'll see if it holds up. Yeah, I think that's going to do it, guys. Look out for my piece. I'll have my piece coming up, previewing the game. I'll be at the game. Might do an Instagram live. Yeah, we'll definitely jump that out. We'll also do a show on Friday for you guys and everything. John's laughing. I'm not sure what he's doing.
Oh, I just happened to look up Karol Swiderski. I'm a Poland supporter in some ways for the national team, and I just Googled it. And both Lewandowski and Swiderski injured themselves in the win against Turkey a week before the Euros, a couple days before the Euros. So great, A+, wonderful. You know what that means? That means that what was the guy's name that played for New England Revs? He was a forward for them. Adam something.
I can't. Yeah,
Bilka.
Yeah,
something.
Yeah.
Something like
Uska.
That means I guess maybe he's going to start in the first game of the. Oh my goodness. Anyway, sorry, just a little diversion there. I good thing I don't have any like long shot bets for Poland, but that's not great for the boys. Oh well.
We didn't talk about the U.S. men's national team, John.
Let's not. Let's just not. What if we didn't?
What if we did? All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Patreon.com/RFK Refugees. Again, tell your friends, tell your DC Nights to 40 friends. You guys are amazing. You guys are awesome. We'll catch you guys if you're on Patreon on Friday, so join up. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Vamos.
It was Adam Buxa. Vamos.
Buxa. Yeah, that's what. Vamos.